Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here, back with another Canadian benefit update for you. And today we're going to talk about some delays that are happening right now in the Canadian House of Commons that could see you waiting a little bit longer for certain benefits that were announced previously. We'll talk about the $1,200 bump up in the Canada Child Benefit that was announced a long time ago but still hasn't passed, and that also includes a pause on student debt in the same bill. We're going to talk about that, as well as some new information about the whole EI extension that was announced that has to go through Parliament. As well, finally, we're going to talk about a change on the CRB website that sort of announces that changes are coming, but when they'll come, we don't know yet. Let's jump into it, but before we do, if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button, notification bell, keep on supporting Canadian content like this right here on YouTube. Okay, let's take a look. To start, we need to look all the way back to November 30th, 2020. This is when the fall economic update came, and inside of that update, they promised a lot of changes, which they're still trying to pass as we speak. And there are two changes that are most impactful for most Canadians. The first one is an update to the Canada Child Benefit. They were going to bump up the benefit, giving out an additional $300 per quarter, or $1,200 over the entirety of 2021. Also included in the same bill as the Canada Child Benefit is a pause on interest payments for any Canada student loans. Now, many people thought that when these were announced back in November and then first brought into Parliament in early December of 2020, that they'd probably be passed right now and they might expect to see these payments hitting their account in the case of the Canada Child Benefit, or that they would have to or would be able to stop paying interest on their student loans. But as of right now, that's not the case. It's still working its way through Parliament, and there are some problems right now. On this page, we can see exactly what's going on. You can take a look here. The first time it was introduced into the House of Commons was on December 2nd of 2020, and now it's been debated a number of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times since then. They've been trying to get this passed and voted on and taken to the next steps of getting this to actually come into existence. And it goes all the way up until a couple of days ago. That was February 26th, the last time they were discussing this in the House of Commons. And many people are saying, hey, what's the holdup? What's going on here? And another thing you might notice is this long gap between these two dates, right? We have December 2nd, and then the next time they take a look at it is over a month later on January 25th. Now, this is largely due to the holiday break that Parliament takes over the course of the holidays. They have almost a month off where they don't sit, they don't debate any of these bills, and as a result, things get pushed down in the schedule. And one person who is arguably the most upset about these delays is Chrystia Freeland, the Minister of Finance here in Canada. She was the sponsor of this bill who brought it in. She was the one who delivered the fall economic update, and now she's very frustrated that largely the Conservatives aren't passing this bill, but they do have their reasons. On Twitter, Chrystia voiced her opinions on these delays, saying, "For the sake of all Canadians and Team Canada, I hope the CPC HQ and Erin O'Toole lend support to the passage of Bill C-14, which is being debated today for the 6th time. This bill contains urgent measures that are so vitally needed during the pandemic." Bill C-14 is the one that has both these things in it, the Canada Child Benefit updates, as well as the student loan interest pauses. She goes on to state that the bill also includes funding for long-term care facilities, support for low and middle-income families, that's the Canada Child Benefit update, and support for COVID-19 testing and research. Support for Canadians cannot flow until this legislation passes. So there are these two things that we've talked about inside the bill, but there are also a number of other small measures which have sort of added to the delays, because as a result of more measures being inside the bill, there's more things to talk about in the House of Commons. So what is the holdup? Well, it seems like the Conservative Party doesn't want to pass this legislation as quickly as Chrystia Freeland would like, and the reason is as follows. The federal government and the Liberals haven't put out a budget sort of outlining Canada's roadmap in terms of fiscal policy and where they're going to spend their money. They haven't released a budget in around 700 days. I believe that's the latest statistic. So the Conservatives are saying, hey, we're not going to pass any more legislation until we know where all of this money is going specifically. Do we even have enough money to pay for this? We want to have answers about these questions before we just rush into this and pass more spending and more bills that require more spending. At least that's the way they see it. On the other side, liberals are saying, hey, you're playing political games, you're just pausing things and delaying things further and further and pushing it down the road, frustrating many Canadians who are looking for this support. So where you lay on that sort of issue is up to you, but that's what's going on. So if you're waiting for your top up of $1,200 over the course of 2021, if you have a child under the age of 6 for this Canada Child Benefit, or if you're a student who doesn't want to pay as much in loans right now because it's tough to get a job, it seems like you could be waiting a little bit longer, because there are also additional steps that have to be taken even after this vote goes through. Here's an outline of the whole legislative process and everything that has to happen in order for changes to be made. Right now, we're on step 3 of all of these steps. So even after we get out of this step, which we've been in for like 3 months now, we still have to go through this, and this, and there's going to be debates in Senate, so it could be delayed even further, but I'm going to keep you updated on that right here on the channel. Next up, you'll remember that there were a lot of announcements regarding the benefits and supports Canadians could be receiving throughout the pandemic, and one of those changes was to the EI program. You'll remember that previously you could have up 26 weeks in regular benefits for EI, and they're proposing that they up that to 50 weeks, so a very large extension for the EI program. The only problem is they couldn't just make this change easily. They're going to have to go through the very same legislative process that we just talked about in that last topic. They're going to have to do the same thing in order to make this extension happen for the EI program. Now, this bill was just introduced on February 25th, 2021, and it was introduced by Carla Qualtrough, who's the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Disability Inclusion. She's the one that we've been covering all of these interviews, and she's the one that sort of is the public-facing person who can take people's questions and announce what changes are coming down the pipeline. So this bill was just introduced. It's going to have to go through the same sort of debates and same sort of votes in order to make this change actually happen. Now, there's another thing included in this bill, and that is the change for eligibility for the CRB and those related benefits. If you're somebody who was out of the country and coming back in and having to quarantine, if that was you, then you wouldn't be eligible to receive these benefits. That was something that was announced a long time ago, and it's just now working its way into actual legislation. So that's the other thing included in this bill. Now, depending on where different parties stand on these issues, this could either take a short amount of time to get through the House of Commons, or it could be delayed, much like the other bill we talked about in this very video. Now, on top of this bill, we're still waiting for a couple of other things from both Carla Qualtrough and also the CRA and Diane Lebouthien, who's the Minister of National Revenue, who's the outward-facing person for the CRA. Now, we're still waiting to see how certain CERB recipients who were going to be forced to pay back all of their CERB, we're still waiting to see how that issue is going to be resolved. They said that people who struggled from the net gross income issue, they wouldn't have to pay back the CERB, and in fact, if they already started paying back the CERB, they should expect payments to come their way back from the CRA. Now, there's still at this point no announcement on how exactly that's going to happen, but there is one CRA related announcement that we do have a little bit of an update on. It came at the same time as the employment insurance update that we just talked about, and that was that the CRB was going to be extended so that you have an additional 6 application periods or 12 weeks in which you can apply, taking us from some people having their benefits expiring at the end of March all the way until the end of June now. That's a 3-month extension. Now, if you watched the previous videos on this channel about this issue, it was confirmed that the CRB extension wouldn't have to go through the same legislative process going through the House of Commons that we're seeing in these other 2 bills, right? With EI and with this Canada Child Benefit student loan problem, it can take quite a long time to go through the House of Commons. But with the CRB, CRSB, CRCB extensions, it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of having to go through the legislative route that these other bills are going through, it seems that this change can happen just via regulation. So they're not going to have to pass any new laws. They can just change the details on the website, and hopefully that should count for the extension. And the webpage was just updated, but not in the way you might expect. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the CRB website, and they just updated it with this notice saying eligibility period limits may be extended. The government has announced a proposed extension to the CRB eligibility period limits. The change would allow eligible recipients to apply for a total of 19 periods, 38 weeks, between September 27, 2020 and September 25th, 2021. So that's old news. We know that that's happening, but the interesting thing is here, again, the language they're using may here, it makes it seem like this isn't a sure thing, although Carla Qualtrough, the Minister of Employment, has assured us that this is going to be something that can just be changed rather quickly and isn't going to have to go through the legislative process. So I'm very confused as to why they're using this sort of soft language and why they're not just updating these requirements on the webpage, and instead they're just announcing that they're going to update it. Is it just a delay on the CRA's part that they couldn't update their website, update the eligibility requirements? It's a little bit confusing, and it seems like it should be a relatively easy fix, right? And as we finish up February and head into March, it's going to be even more important that we know exactly what's happening, because for people who have been applying for the CRB since the beginning, their eligibility periods are running out on March 30th, I believe, or right around that March 30th timeline. So hopefully we have some more solid facts and the website and eligibility requirements are actually changed so we can know for sure that this extension is coming. So that's a whole bunch of information I just laid out for you. I hope it helps a little bit. It's such a frustrating situation. There's so many delays and so many pauses. It just seems like the government takes its time on some of these things, but all we can do is sort of watch what's going on and hope that they do things quickly and they do things in the right way for you as a Canadian. And as always, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm bringing constant Canadian information that could be helpful for many Canadians. And also, if you can think of anybody, any friends or family members that might find information like this valuable, feel free to share this video and the channel with them also. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time. This channel is supported by viewers like you. Thanks, channel members.